Imagine you're a warrior, standing on a battlefield miles from home, staring down a sea of enemies. The ground starts to tremble. Thousands of chanting warriors are charging straight for you, a wall of fury and steel. Surrender feels like your only option. But you're not just any soldier. Defeat feels certain. Hope you are subscribed now. You're a Roman legionary. And for a Roman, a hopeless battle is just another day at the office. The Roman legion didn't just conquer the ancient world, they did it with a playbook of brutal, brilliant, and downright terrifying shock tactics. These weren't just strategies, they were psychological weapons designed to break an enemy's mind right before breaking their lines. So, let's break down 5 of the most effective shock tactics the Roman legion used to make sure that no matter the odds, Rome came out on top. Section 1. The shield-shattering volley. Picture this, you're standing in your battle line, shield up, heart pounding. The Roman legion advances, but they're not screaming. They're marching in an eerie, disciplined silence that is deeply unnerving. The tension is almost unbearable. Then, a single command cuts through the air. A forest of arms rises in perfect unison, and a dark cloud of javelins suddenly blots out the sky. This was the opening shock of a Roman assault, the devastating volley of the pylon. See, the big problem for Rome's enemies was the shield wall. A line of interlocked shields could stop a charge dead in its tracks. The Romans needed a way to crack that wall before the real fight started. Their answer was a heavy, brilliantly engineered javelin. The pylon wasn't just a pointy stick. It had a long, thin iron shank behind its pyramidal tip. When a legionary hurled it from about 10 to 15 meters away, its weight allowed it to punch straight through a wooden shield. But here's the genius part: upon impact, that long, soft iron shank would often bend under the force. The effect was instantly catastrophic. An enemy soldier was faced with a terrible choice: either try to fight while holding a shield that's now got a 6-foot, awkward piece of bent metal stuck in it, or throw away his only defense. In a split second, a solid shield wall would dissolve into a crowd of exposed, terrified men. And it was into that chaos that the legionaries charged. They didn't hesitate. The moment the pillar hit, they drew their short, stabbing swords, the gladius, and crashed into the disordered enemy lines. The psychological shock was massive. Your shield is useless, your friend next to you is panicking, and a disciplined wall of steel is already on top of you. This 1-2 punch broke the enemy's formation and morale before the first swords even clashed. Section 2, the wedge, breaking the line. So, how do you break an army in half? For the Romans, the answer was simple and brutal: you drive a wedge through it. The cuneiform formate, or wedge formation, was one of Rome's most aggressive and terrifying offensive tools. Imagine facing a solid, unbroken line of determined infantry. A head-on charge could just turn into a bloody, grinding stalemate. The Romans, ever practical, decided to weaponize physics. On the command cuneiform formate, a select group of legionaries would form a triangle, a human arrowhead. The very tip of this wedge was usually made up of the toughest, most experienced centurions, creating a concentrated point of pure killing power. As this wedge charged, it focused all its momentum onto one narrow point in the enemy line. The shock of the impact was designed to pierce the formation instantly. The real chaos, though, started as the wedge pushed deeper. Its widening shape forced the enemy ranks apart, creating a gap and shoving soldiers into tight spaces where they couldn't fight properly. Think of the terror. One moment you're shoulder to shoulder with your comrades, the next you're being shoved aside, separated, with Romans pouring into the gap on both sides. Panic would just ripple down the line. This tactic wasn't always the sole key to victory, but it was incredibly effective at exploiting weaknesses. At the famous Battle of Pydna in 168 BC, the much-hyped Macedonian phalanx struggled on the uneven terrain. The legion's flexible tactics allowed them to take advantage of the gaps that opened in the phalanx's rigid lines, and aggressive assaults helped shatter their cohesion, leading to a legendary Roman victory. It was a perfect example of Roman thinking: don't just meet force with force, concentrate your strength and hit the enemy where it hurts. Section 3. The Triple Line. Waves of steel. One of the greatest psychological weapons the Romans had was the illusion that they were unstoppable. Enemies often felt like they were fighting a monster that just wouldn't die. This terrifying resilience came from the acies triplex, the Roman triple line formation. In ancient warfare, battles were often decided by the first big charge. Armies threw their best guys forward, and if that line broke, it was usually game over. The Romans saw this as a fatal flaw. Their solution was to create an army with tactical depth, an army built in 3 waves. First up were the hastati, the youngest, most eager soldiers. They formed the front line, absorbed the enemy's initial fury, and got the grim work started. But they weren't expected to win the battle alone. As the hastati started to get tired, something incredible would happen. The second line, the principes, more experienced soldiers in their prime, would advance. The hastati would then pull back, filtering through carefully maintained gaps in the principes line. To the enemy, it was a horrifying sight. The men they had just exhausted themselves fighting simply vanished, only to be replaced by a fresh, unbloodied, and even tougher line of legionaries. And if, after all that, the battle was still in doubt, the Romans had one final, soul-crushing card to play: the triarii. These were the grizzled veterans of countless campaigns, the most hardened soldiers in the legion. They'd wait at the rear, resting on one knee, a silent and menacing reserve. To have the triarii stand up and enter the fight meant the battle was at its absolute crisis point. An enemy army, already exhausted from fighting 2 waves of Roman infantry, now had to face the absolute best the legion had. This often caused entire armies to break and run from sheer despair. The phrase "it has come to the triarii" became a proverb in the Roman army for a situation that had become truly desperate. For their enemies, it just meant the end. Section 4. The Sound of Fear. Psychological warfare. The Roman war machine wasn't just about sharp swords and clever formations, it was also about mastering fear. Roman commanders knew you could win a battle before it even started by striking terror directly into the hearts of your enemies. They did this by masterfully controlling the battlefield's atmosphere. Unlike the chaotic war cries of other armies, Roman legions often marched and maneuvered in complete, unnerving silence. Imagine thousands of armored men moving as one, their footsteps and the creak of leather the only sounds. This eerie quiet created intense pressure and showcased a level of discipline that was, by itself, terrifying. Then, at the perfect moment, the silence would shatter. A command, and the entire legion would erupt in a single, terrifying roar, backed by the blare of horns and the thunderous boom of thousands of pila being struck against shields. This sudden explosion of sound was engineered to startle and demoralize the enemy just seconds before impact. Their psychological games went far beyond the battlefield, too. During sieges, they used terror to break a city's will to fight. They might parade captured soldiers in front of the walls, cut off food and water to starve the population, or display the bodies of captured scouts as a grim warning. But perhaps their most infamous tool was decimation. This wasn't a standard disciplinary action, it was a brutal, rarely used punishment for extreme cowardice or mutiny. 1 in every 10 men from a disgraced unit would be chosen by lot, and then beaten to death by his own comrades. This horrific practice sent an unmistakable message: you should be more afraid of your own commanders than you are of the enemy. It forged an ironclad discipline that was, itself, one of Rome's most powerful weapons. Section 5. The Unbreakable Box. Formations of last resort. So what happens when a Roman legion gets caught in the open by cavalry, or worse, completely surrounded? For most armies, this was a death sentence. For the Romans, it was just another problem to solve with discipline and geometry. Against a cavalry charge, the legionaries would execute the command repeller equites repel horsemen. They'd form a tight, hollow square. The men in the front rank would kneel, planting their large shields, scutter, into the ground, while the ranks behind them interlocked their own shields to create a wall. Critically, they would all hold their pillar-like spears, pointing them outward through the gaps. This turned the legion into a bristling, impenetrable fortress of shields and spear points. Horses are smart animals, they generally won't charge into a solid wall of sharp objects. Any cavalry that did try was met by a forest of steel, while legionaries in the rear ranks could lob their own pillar at the frustrated attackers. The formation had no weak flanks for cavalry to exploit, completely neutralizing their advantage of speed and mobility. If the situation was even worse and the legion was surrounded from all sides, they'd use the command orbum formate and form a defensive circle, or orb. This was a 360-degree fighting ring, making sure that no matter where the enemy attacked from, they were met by a line of Roman shields and swords. Archers or other troops could be sheltered in the center, firing out from a protected position. These formations were the ultimate expression of Roman discipline. They shocked enemies by proving that even when outnumbered, surrounded, and facing certain death, a Roman legion could adapt and remain a lethal fighting force. It sent a clear message: there is no easy way to kill a legion. The pylon volley, the wedge, the triple line, psychological warfare, the defensive square. These 5 tactics are more than just clever strategies. They're a window into the mind of the Roman war machine, an engine built on discipline, brutal pragmatism, and a deep understanding of how to break an enemy's spirit. The average Roman legionary wasn't necessarily bigger or stronger than his opponent. But he was part of a system designed to turn ordinary men into the most effective soldiers in the ancient world. Their legacy isn't just in the lands they conquered, but in the terrifying and brilliant methods they used to do it, a playbook of shock and awe that military leaders are still studying 2,000 years later. But the Romans had plenty of other dirty tricks and brilliant strategies up their sleeves. What's a Roman tactic that you find the most fascinating or terrifying? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into military history.